Welcome to Women in B2B Marketing, a show where CMOs, VPs of marketing, and all strong women leaders in B2B discuss their top tactics, strategies, and tips for building high-performing teams, leveraging trends, and ultimately rocking their marketing careers. Made by and for women, insightful for all. I'm your host and 15-year B2B marketer, Jane Serra. Let's dive in. Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Women in B2B Marketing. We have with us today, you may have seen her on LinkedIn, Emma Clayton, who is multi-time CMO and CCO. She is a consultant at Be Brilliant. She is the best-selling author of Brilliant Teams, which I need to check out. And she has the best nickname I have ever come across in the world of LinkedIn, which is the Mary Poppins for marketing functions. It's just, I feel like I should bow down to the Mary Poppins of marketing. So welcome to the show, Emma. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's a real pleasure. Honestly, there is nothing special here at all. It's all just learnt.
I disagree because you got my attention in several ways on LinkedIn. I reached out to Emma for background for everybody listening on the show. I get a lot of referrals and recommendations from people, or people reach out to me on LinkedIn. Feel free to do. But I reached out to Emma because she has been writing the best posts that are just resonating with me and with many other marketers, all about many things underneath this, but the massacre of marketing and how the role of CMO has changed and been torn apart. To quote Emma, the role of CMO is being carved up like a Christmas turkey. So I'd love, Emma, first of all, you are brilliant with words. Can you unpack this for us and give us kind of a foundation of this mindset and this way of thinking?
Yeah, you're right. I have been a CMO. Actually, I wasn't a CMO my entire career, but I've been doing marketing for 23 years now. I don't actually say that in my CV because I think people just discard you when you reach a certain point in your career. But for transparency and authenticity, 23 years I've been doing this. And when I started out, I actually started out as a sales rep in my 20s, early 20s. I got my first sales job I was like 22 years old. And I was pretty good at it, but I was also pretty bad at it. So if I had a great product, I could really sell it. And if I had a bad product, I was telling marketing what they needed to do better, about how they could refine it, and what the market was telling me why they weren't buying it. And so eventually my boss at the time said, come and get yourself into marketing. And they put me through my qualifications. But as I entered it, it was just this amazing place where you just thought you can never be, like the Emerald City. You were always trying to get in. And there was always this magicalness behind the doors. And it was just revered as a function. And so I entered in and I had to work my way up. I couldn't go into any leadership roles until I'd taken the different seats in marketing so I could really understand and have my stripes with each of those different parts of marketing. This was before digital, which really took off in 2008. And then we saw this growth of digital marketing up to probably 2020, 21, where we had this sort of splurge and you have these phases and fads and themes that marketing goes through. But throughout it, I couldn't reach leadership until I had the stripes. And so what I am now observing, looking over the last, I would say 5 years since the big explosion of tech and SaaS businesses, and I think this is where it's really started from, and what's happening is founders and startups and Series A's and B's are looking at these tech and SaaS startups that had huge unicorn growth, explosive stages and are going, we must do the same. And so what I'm looking at is that they're getting this CMO role and saying, you're not very good as a CMO because you haven't got me short-term sales, so you're fired. And actually what we're going to do now is we're either going to do one of three things. We're going to replace you with somebody that equally hasn't got a qualification like you do, who hasn't gone through the ranks and learned how to do all the different pieces and how they stack together with that real strategic prowess. Or they go and get a fractional who isn't employable as a full-time CMO has decided, or become really disoriented with the problem we've got, one of two things. And so they'll get them in, but they'll get them in to do something that is very tactical and then again, get rid of them quickly.
Yeah.
The third thing is that they will just say, actually, we're not going to have a marketeer. We're just going to put this into ops, or we're going to put it into HR, or we're going to put it straight to the CEO, or all these wonderful different departments who haven't got a Scooby-Doo about what real, true strategic marketing is. And so what we've seen,
Yes.
it's become incredibly tactic heavy. We've got AI transformation projects, digital transformation projects, performance and growth transformation projects. And so what the CMO used to do, which was basically take, the clue is in the title, understand the market and really try and say, hang on, the market says this, the customers in the market feel this, want this, have a real need for this. Sometimes don't even have a need or an awareness that they have it. But the marketeer's job is to try and really look at how they can take the function of a product or a service and position it in the market and stand out. And because people are not qualified to do that or strategically developed enough to do that, they're just going straight into these short-term tactics of, look, I can do social media, look, I can do blogs, look, I know how to do Google ads. And so we're becoming really disillusioned with when these short-term results are not working. We haven't established this huge connection and attachment through our brand with our customers. And so this CMO role just gets sliced off and sliced off. And we're absolutely at the bare bones now. And it's really disheartening and it's just devastating, because I look at marketing now and everybody coveted to be a marketeer. Now everybody thinks they're a marketeer, and the two are very different.
Oh, yes. That's such a powerful statement too. It's everybody here in the US, we often say everyone thinks they're an armchair marketer, where they just give advice and they think they are, and they think, oh, it's easy to be in marketing, because they just think of the fun ideation brainstorming side of things, but all of the stuff that goes beyond that, they're clueless of. Yeah.
Oh, it's okay, we'll just do a blog, or we'll just do an SEO strategy, or my wife thinks that we should choose this color this time.
Yes.
And it's just, but how does this attach to the business objectives? How?
Yeah.
And if you can't answer that, then please don't come with a suggestion. I'm quite restless now. If we're not adding value to the customer and the business, we should not be doing it.
Agreed.
As
Yes.
popular and as fanatical and fab as it all is, if it doesn't drive customer loyalty, connection, and then revenue as a result, we don't do it.
I'm writing that down too, because it's just a good reminder that we need to set these boundaries. The same as I feel like the word boundaries has become so popular the last few years in personal lives, but we also need to do that work. And yes, I appreciate ideas. Come to me with ideas, that's fine, but they're going to get on the idea list. And then we can revisit that when we need certain things, but it has to tie back to revenue at the end of the day. And we have to have bandwidth to take this on. And it's when it's the right time for this and the right audience. So all of those layers have to be aligned.
And the CMO used to be the linchpin between understanding the revenue drivers and building the strategy that fits all of that with the customer insight. And so what you're doing is scraping away. If you don't have that real true marketing leader that can understand that, the bridge between the business goals and tactics is lost, the strategy, the bridge that the CMO would own. So if you end up with all these different specialists, which is great, we all need specialists, but you need something that is the anchor and the tie that puts all of that together and keeps all of those silos working together, collaborating together, but also where that plan just beautifully, the cogs in the wheel all just turn to deliver something at the bottom. At the minute, they're all just scratching against each other and bashing heads, and right arm and the left arm doesn't know what's going on, and people are frustrated. And then they just look at marketing as this hugely dysfunctional place within the company and becomes this real cost center that is eating away at budget and isn't delivering anything because one's really powerful role is just not there anymore.
Why is this happening? I know you mentioned that all of these high growth unicorn companies, everybody wants to emulate, right? Everyone's looking for exactly what they've done before at a unicorn company. Those are everyone's ideal hires. Is that the crux of the problem here? Is it also just our need or our expectations from above or from the board or whomever that are unrealistic? Or what's the problem?
I can't lay blame at one door. I think it's just a real mishmash mess of everything. So I think
Yeah.
if I just take it in turn. So the first thing I think that is a huge problem, and I think it's born from there, is that if you're going to hire a CFO, you will bet that they've got some kind of management accountancy qualification. And you will test that at interview and you will say, have you got your Chartered Institute of Management Accounts, CMA qualification? Yes, I do. Great, amazing. Come on in. You don't have somebody going, I'm really good with Excel. Can I come and be your... Same with general counsel. Are you a lawyer? Have you practiced? Have you got your law degree? Yes, I've got my law degree. Do you still do your annual CPD accreditation and your license? You've got to qualify every year with your license. Yes, I do. Great. Come on in and be my lawyer. You don't say, oh, I really like crime dramas, so can I come and be your lawyer? I'm really fascinated.
I watch a lot of Law and Order. I'd be great at it.
Yeah, you don't, do you? But for some reason, we come to think that if somebody says, hey, I've got 1,000 followers on Instagram, or I gave this talk at a conference, that suddenly they're an amazing... They're not. And the Chartered Institute of Marketing published something that was so horrific, which is where I'm scratching my head with where I first started having my cage rattled. And they said, see, like 28% of marketeers currently, globally, are qualified or trained in marketing.
Wow.
So imagine if that was another function, because we're letting in people who have got a passion, but they haven't got the skills, the training, they haven't invested in personal development like I had to do. I had to go and sit in the seats. I had to do the job. And if I didn't do the job, I had to do a course or a qualification and then have some real practical implementation of that. Now, I'm a lifelong learner, so I've consistently kept up to speed and have managed to now at the point where the Chartered Institute of Marketing have said, come on in, you're now a fellow of us. But imagine if more people could do that and prove that they've invested in themselves. And marketing changes constantly. Strategically, it doesn't change. Strategically, it stays the same. How you do strategic marketing, it's the same framework. I've used that for 20 years now, since I was first trained. Tactics change. And so that's why marketing is moving around and not able to stay still. And people are burning out because they've got too much to do and they're doing too much of the wrong stuff. They can't measure that because they haven't taken the time to build strategy. What is it we want to do? Why we want to do that? How are we going to get there? And then the tactics will come. 3, 4, 5 things, really simple, that everybody gets behind, way more powerful than doing 25 things that don't do anything. So I think that with that as a problem, I also think that organizations don't understand what marketing is anymore. They think marketing is what they can see and what they can attach a number to. So that will be how many posts, how many SEOs, how many Google ad revenue, how many leads, how many sales. But what you can't define, and that is a little bit more illogical and harder, fluffy, if you like, is that's all data stuff. But what about the behavioral psychology of marketing? Because I'm not just a number as a customer. I am somebody who has got a perception about your brand, and how you talk to me and communicate with me makes me decide whether I'm in or I'm not, and I'm going to move to a competitor. And so if we're not able to understand those emotional belief value drivers as to why somebody buys, that actually is what's driving the number. That's what's them saying, yes, I'm in, or no, I'm not. And that is the number that we're able to measure. But what we're not able to measure, or measure well, or believe in, is the power of all of the stuff that we can't measure. And that actually is probably more powerful, that drives what we can measure. And so I think that there's that.
Yes.
I also don't think that as we're setting up boards, I would hazard a guess, and I'm yet to find stats on this, but I would probably estimate, I would say less than 1 in 10, 1 in 15 marketers sit on a board. And so you haven't got that strategic power sitting at the ultimate decision-making table in an organization. And who will sit there will be the chief ops officer or the chief revenue officer, which is now taking over the customer buying journey, which the CMO would have always had historically. We'd have always had leads to sales, to customer success, and the sales, we'd have worked in partnership with sales, but now the CRO manages that, and marketing just get top of funnel brand awareness. So I think that we've got an issue there. And then I just think that this perception and understanding is just hugely missing, and marketers are not staying accountable to their discipline and to their practice. And we're being bowled over by these people that say, just go get leads. And rather than saying, let me tell you how I get leads, let me tell you what success looks like when we get leads. Let me show you this brand over here that's doing it right. Let me show you why they're doing it right. Someone that's doing it wrong. And I can always tell an organization that's got a CMO at a board level by the way that they communicate with me throughout the entire buy-in journey, and those that don't. I've got 100% success rate of spotting a CMO at level, because you can feel it as a customer. You can feel a disconnect. Whether it be in the customer success when you've got a problem, whether it be in the sales cycle, whether it be in communication cascade, that customer journey. If a really solid CMO, the voice of the customer, owns that journey, you can feel it.
So true. There's so many points that you just touched on that I want to unpack more. The most recent CMO and marketing really should oversee the entire journey, right? So should be involved in guiding the consistent journey for the customer, the prospect. At the end of the day is our core care. That's what we care about, their view, not so much what we want to push on them, but what do they need? What do they want? And are we delivering it? From first becoming aware of us, right? All the way through being a customer and growth and retention. And oftentimes, like you pointed out, marketing is siloed onto top of funnel and leads and MQLs, but we need to get back to the full picture. Like marketing isn't just top of the pipeline. We are the pipeline. We should be along the entire thing. And with that customer, our audience at the center of it all. Otherwise, it's like you said, this disjointed journey. It's not even a journey, this disjointed experience that does not lead to revenue at the end of the day.
Yeah. And if you look at the way that companies present themselves, another spot check is, are they talking about themselves or are they talking about the customer?
Yeah.
And again, you can see, we do this, we do that, we do this, we solve this, we do this. Look at us, we're amazing, we stand out, look at our features. Ooh. But actually, what about talking to the customer? And the people that get that right are the people that are really curious about the customer and what's going on for them, and building solutions around that instead of building a product and saying, I think our product's the best thing, bam, spam, spray and pray. And the customers just go, what the hell is this? This is insane. And then they vote with their feet, and then you don't get the sales. And then guess what happens again? You go faster and louder and more money. I can't tell you, Jane, how many times I've gone in to pick up the pieces when a startup scale-up business has said, oh, we'll get ahead of marketing, we'll get them in to look at some of this performance and growth. They get them in, they cost a fortune, they burn tens of thousands of pounds or dollars in cash, and they go, we didn't get results. That person gets fired, and then they come and go, what do we do? And I said, the last thing you did is you haven't understood your ICP, your ideal client profile. You haven't understood where they hang out. You haven't understood what's bothering them. You haven't built any messaging. All you've done is go out and throw thousands of pounds into advertising or search or social media, not knowing what you're trying to. It's like fishing in the Pacific Ocean when you could just go to a lake that's a bit smaller and nearer, but you haven't done your due diligence. And I always say, if you haven't spent 70% of your time asking questions, being curious and building a plan, you're going to fail. Whereas people want to do 10% thinking and 90% execution. I always say, no, it's the other way around.
Yes, I love that. I feel like we're often told to spend more time listening, right? Everyone always says, as a human being, if you listen first, that's the key to success and to becoming a millionaire, right?
2 ears and 1 mouth. Use it in that order. That's what my teacher used to tell me.
I love that. But we don't really hear that when it comes time to execute for marketing, right? It's, oh no, we need to be executing. We have enough planning. We know who our ICP is. The number of times I've been told we don't need to research this. We already understand this. We just need to execute. Gosh, you're speaking to my heart right now.
But also, doesn't that then say, if all we do is execute, that's where the massacre's coming?
Yeah. Speaking of, you touched on this a little bit, how CROs, they're typically on the board. I bet there are stats that justify this. I'll try to find and put in show notes. But CMOs are typically not. How do you feel about the trend of more CMOs becoming CROs?
I think it's really curious, but is it a way? And the question I ask myself a lot, is this because they know it's the only way they can stay at board level and stay with
It's our workaround.
Yeah.
We're so used to workarounds as marketers.
Yeah. And I think that's what's driving it. And I think that companies are no longer recruiting for CMOs. I know so many amazing CMOs who cannot get a job at the moment. And they are phenomenal. And what we're seeing is these CROs taking the job, and they've got the sales background. And so again, it's have you really thought about, as you're growing and building, have you thought about what your team needs to look like for you to achieve success? So are you sitting in the board and are you strategically looking at the skills and capabilities that you've got and then selecting the people? For example, I'm working with a client at the moment and they're just putting their growth plan in going into the next round of funding. And they've put in 11 salespeople and a mid-level marketeer.
Yeah.
And this is my entire. And I go, how are those 11 salespeople going to generate anything if they don't have a really strong marketeer shaping strategy? No, they're going to do sales enablement, Emma. No, the marketeer is not your sales enablement. They're not there to put a glossy brochure together. They are there to be able to go and take and do marketing, which is go out into the market and understand so you can then fit your product in and differentiate and listen. And the sales guys just go out picking up phones and sell. But as a customer, do we like that? No. If we get an inbox from our LinkedIn, do we like it? No.
No.
Do we respond? No. What's the biggest waste? The thing that never gets done.
Exactly. I'm seeing that so much as well, where it's that old school mentality. It almost feels like we need more sales, then we hire more sales. Like we need more revenue, we hire more sales to drive the revenue. But marketing really owns a ton of the pipeline and bringing that in. And we need to understand the market first and foremost. Again, at our core is the audience, and bringing that back and connecting all of the departments and getting the right message together and driving that pipeline versus sales. It just doesn't seem to work that way anymore, where you could just hire more sales to bring in their book of business or to smile and dial. It just doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, that's it. They might have networks, but then really good marketeers have networks too, because they're listening and talking to customers. And who is the customer going to turn to? The person that they feel heard by, or the person that just keeps banging them over the head and they've had all this time being sold to? Like, I always go to people that I feel heard, valued, and listened to. And that's the marketeer's job.
We're just a softer approach. We're not hard selling people. So we're much more inviting as a group.
But people buy from people and people buy relationship. And yes, do you know what? There's some amazing salespeople that have got amazing relationships, but they don't know how. There's only 5% of anybody in the market for your product at any one time. It's the 80-20 rule of anything. 5% are in the market now, 15% will be in the market soon. But actually the marketeer's job is to try and create. And again, this is where this new role of demand gen has come from. But it's just marketing. It's not demand gen. It's just marketing. That's what we do. Like, we just try and create, hey, look at this. You didn't know you even needed it, but it's here. That's just marketing. What we've now got this fancy name of demand gen.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Oh, we're famous for branding and rebranding everything.
And there lieth the problem.
Yeah.
And actually, that's something that I didn't include is marketers. We've got to hold ourselves responsible for some things. We love to keep innovating and creating and refreshing and refining. But actually, we were just talking about this before we started doing the podcast. Actually, the best marketeers are the ones that get thoroughly bored, because for you to be successful, you've got to repeat, and then innovate and then repeat. The more you innovate at each step, you're not actually going to get a scalable growth. Like, we are our own worst enemy.
Yeah, that's so true. Always just recreating instead of seeing things through and seeing how things pan out. Speaking of, you also touched on coming in to clean up a mess that was made from a company in the marketing team, right? So let's talk about diagnosing marketing teams. You've posted about this on LinkedIn before, but how to identify the key issues and paths back to marketing performance and success?
So I think that, so when I go in and look at this, I always look at a few things. I look at the strategy first, and then I look at what are we trying to do as a business here? Let's go back to basics. Okay, you're trying to do X, Y, Z. Okay, what's the strategy for you to achieve X, Y, Z? So let's start there. Okay, you're going to try and go to individuals, you're going to go to enterprises, you're going to go to SME. Like, how are you going to do all of that? That's crazy, right? Let's just choose one. And then I say, okay, what are the skills that you've got in the team that's going to get you there? So if you're wanting to go into enterprises, why have you got 4 top of funnel marketers there? Why have you got loads of Google and social media and comms and PR? Like, why haven't you got something that really plays to the strategic direction of the enterprise model? And so what I look at is I look at the skills and benchmark those skills. Maybe you've got somebody too junior having a really responsible target on their head, and yet there's no training. I'll also look at what training are you giving your team? What development are you giving them? The biggest investment, if anybody has got budget at the end of this year, I would say put it into marketing training, because that will pay you the biggest dividends rather than a big fancy event. You've got 100 grand left. Don't go doing a big fancy event that means nothing to nobody and everyone just has a nice time but doesn't shift the dial. Go and invest it in that marketing team. And I have frameworks and benchmarks as well, just from across the years, just from having sat in a lot of the seats myself, growing up in my career. What does a good product manager look like? A senior product manager look like? What does a good growth marketer look like? What does a good brand manager look like? What does a good comms person look like? What does a junior and a senior, what do they need to show you at each stage of their career progression? And have you got the right mix of senior, junior within a team? And the smaller you are, the more senior you need, because there's less people and there's more accountability. So start with really senior. Do not bring your first person in as a junior or mid, because that is highly irresponsible for your business and for that person. So you start really senior and then you add in medium and then junior. So the junior would come in to support rather than starting at the bottom. And that comes from people having they're really bootstrapped and they can't afford. But what I'm trying to do now, Jane, is give people tools so they can do it for themselves without having to hire in the beginning, to understand how and what to do and what the basics and the foundations of marketing is, and go and do this for yourself in this framework. And then as you get some money, you can invest in people, because I know that if you're going to start with the people at the beginning and you don't know what you're doing, it's very expensive.
Yes. I feel like a note to any listener here who's looking for a new job: go to a company where Emma is a consultant, because she laid the foundation for marketing respect and success.
Trying. Sometimes they don't want to listen. Sometimes they want to listen to their wife who's decided that I saw this brochure over there, we should do the brand like this. And you're like, oh my God, no. What are you doing?
Definitely been there.
Or a competitor does something. This is the one I see. This competitor over there is doing that. We need to go and do the same, but bigger. And I'm just like, no, you need to do the opposite.
Yes. I think even where I've been at companies where marketing was valued and respected and it was a good situation, there's still that happens, right? It's a competitor comes out and they do a great job with their messaging, or their website refresh looks beautiful, and they send it over and they're like, why doesn't ours look like this? They just redid it. Kudos to them. They did a great job, marketing team. But art doesn't mean ours is bad. Like, we just redid it too, and ours is great. They probably said, don't see them do that. Yeah. Well, telco still nonstop cycle. It's crazy, this comparison game. So true.
Yeah.
And I forget who says this, but it's like focusing on your competitor is like the fastest way to fail, because you need to focus on yourself and your own growth, not constantly playing catch up.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. In fact, actually, I wouldn't even focus on that. I'd focus on your customers.
Yes.
Focus on your customers and will absolutely be successful. Focus on yourself. Maybe competitors fail.
Good clarification. I want to touch on, I'm going to be quoting you a lot here because you drop so many gems on LinkedIn. Everyone follow Emma. The reputation of marketing has gone from being a revered team to one that is disrespected and misunderstood the most. We've touched on this a little bit already throughout, but anything you want to bring in, like, why do you think this is and how do we solve for this?
Oh, gosh. So
I know, big one.
It's huge. Just goes back to the fact, if we just take a step back as to why is this happening? I think it's that people just don't understand what marketing is. They just don't understand the strategic importance of it. And I do think it's really been exacerbated since social media and digital marketing has come in. And what's really interesting is when I was setting up my business, I looked so I've got these URLs now around fix your marketing because that's my USP. And
Love it.
believe it or not, those URLs were available up until I took them 6 months ago. All of the URLs for digital marketing, all taken. Which I was, well, that just tells me everything already. Everybody's gone into digital marketing. And guess what happens when you do that? You miss everything else that's going on in the world. Everything's digital. And what happens is we depersonalize the experience. We think everybody's online, but not everybody is online. People are craving human interaction, connection, community, experience. And as a result, we're just fighting in this very crowded, noisy space that actually isn't in our control. It's all of these Metas and LinkedIns who are creating these algorithms that's just feeding banal, unimportant, office level thinking and bannering it under thought leadership. There's nothing new on there. And I think that's why my post recently cut through and has just exploded, because it was probably something new, or it was the first time somebody had mobilized or articulated the challenge we've got. But there's nothing new on these platforms. And yet we are hell-bent on just throwing all of our shit onto these platforms, saying it will stick. So I just think that we've lost our way since digital marketing came in. We've followed the shiny toys and the metrics and the data, and we've almost forgotten the most important thing. And I'm a stuck record, but actually having a human connection with our customers. Events, we lost that in COVID. Again, it was highly exacerbated by the fact that we were all locked down for so long, but we're not anymore. But we seem to be doing the things we did in lockdown. We're not doing events. We're not doing get-togethers as much as we did. And I'm in some communities and we do get-togethers. And when I go, I like, it just expands my horizon so much more. And I get people referring me as a result, and just from having conversations, just sharing experiences and hearing each other out and what's your challenge and what's going on. And I think we've lost our way. I think it's been born from that, and we're just playing in other people's sea with these social media platforms.
Yeah, it is interesting because you're making me realize that a lot of this comes back down to comparison again. Because even on social media, that's a big factor and at large for social media, especially with young kids growing up, right? Constant comparisons that we didn't see when we were younger. We didn't have social media to compare ourselves to people. But it's the same thing when we see in the marketing world, for example, right? All we see the different marketing examples and posts and preaches that we see on our LinkedIn feed. It is interesting. There's like trends where everyone does the same thing. And there's another quote from you, Emma. I think you may have just posted this one today, but LinkedIn is the breeding ground for marketing mediocrity. Yeah, I feel like that's an Emma bumper sticker.
The t-shirt for it, they're going to ban me from LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a really brilliant platform. Professionally, you don't have Doris telling you what she's having for a tea, although some might argue some people are starting to do that.
Yes.
It's great. It's great for sharing ideas, but it's just surface level. What's the trend?
Yeah.
So you can bet you've got $1, everything's a Black Friday. Why are we doing a Black Friday, a Cyber Monday, Cat Day, Dog Day, Partner Day, or a thing is a celebrity that's got cancelled or memed that week and their interpretation of it. It's quite frankly boring and it's bollocks. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And what's happening is it's just taking all of our feed up. It's just regurgitated. Blah. It's just homogenized.
Yeah.
It's not safe to share our ideas and to stand up and say, what's going on here, guys? And I think some of it is born from the fact that companies, because LinkedIn specifically is professional, we don't want our boss or our boss's boss or our peers to see and understand what we really think about things, because we're a bit scared, or our clients might see it and they might be repelled. If you're repelled, good, because then you're not for me. Then that means that the people that are for me will come closer. And if brands only thought like that, then, and you do see some brands, look at Jaguar, you cannot get away from that at the moment. It's blown out of all proportion. That CMO, I hope, knows what they're doing. and just trust.
It's all intentional, you think? We shall see.
But it was a dying brand. It was a brand that had huge legacy, but nothing current. And I bet that what they have done there, and I don't know until we see what else is to come, but just from the think different slogans in that ad campaign and the colour and just the way that it's gone from being the James Bond E-type into this electric new generation, is that their old affluent buyers are no longer buying. So they've got to appeal to a new market. Where is that cash? It's going to be the millennial generation coming through that have got the cash in the pocket. They care about electric. So we need to target, and we can't go target Bill, who's 65. He doesn't care about electric cars anymore. We've got to pivot. And so I would imagine that they've said, they've gone back to basics. Who is our ICP going forward? Do they care about? What do they love? How do we get them to think differently about us? And so they've come out with this very revolutionary, attention attracting. And so I think they've done some strategic work. Either that or they're hallucinating, they're taking drugs, and they've just paid a fortune for a creative agency to have a field day. It's one of the two, right?
Exactly. Yes.
But I am going to trust in my fellow CMO, and I'm going to say I think that guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah. So fascinating is that it's one of those two extremes is what I'm seeing everywhere. It's what someone paid an intern to do this and was like, do more with less. We have no budget, but redo our whole brand. Or it's super strategic. And especially after, I think you just convinced me that this was a really good move based on their market and they must have done a ton of research into where their opportunity was and how the stand.
I'll be back on say, this is where I messed up.
This was a fail.
This is where I messed up. They didn't do all the stuff that Mary Poppins would do.
Guaranteed this will be a Harvard Business Review case study. It could go in either direction. So we'll see which way it pans out for the future.
They've cut through the noise. And that's what I love, is they've cut through the noise. And yes, LinkedIn did it. Every single social media platform and news outlet did their thing. Shooting the CMO and the Daily Mail over here in the UK. Yes, some vile things about the CMO in the paper. And just calling out the fact that they're new and they're American and they're gay, and that this is obviously what this is all about. And it's quite sick, actually. And guess what? The CMO is the person that gets slaughtered again.
Yeah.
So again, we just massacre in this discipline that actually is incredibly strategic and well thought out. So I'm going to stand by my fellow CMO person.
Yeah, I love this. You've totally changed my perspective on Jaguar, because seeing it before this conversation, I was like, I don't see how this fits, but it's because I was trying to fit it to what I know Jaguar.
And are you their target audience? I'd guess not.
Yeah.
Like I'm not.
It's interesting. Yeah. And actually, if I think it's funny, because I do love Jaguars. It is the dream car that I would love to buy. Their new SUVs are beautiful. And I do the ads, but it's just that the change of what I know versus what it is trying to be now. There's a gap that isn't filled for me. But this is interesting. We'll stay tuned and see how this pans out.
I think that I hope that they will surprise us. But they'll have done their research. They'll have understood. And this is exactly what I love, is that they've understood their target market.
Yes. 2 more questions, Emma, and then I will let you go. One is, we touched on this a little bit. I'd love to share your answer. What are your favorite tools at the moment?
I think that you can probably predict me saying this now. It's the tool that is going to execute the strategy. So I could sit here and say all the popular tools. There are thousands of tools that are available. And yes, I do try them all. I ask about them all. A lot of my community have got a Notion page full of them all. They're all fabulous, I'm sure. But for me, it's, okay, what are we trying to do? How are we going to get, and what are the tactics, tools that are going to achieve it? So the best tool is the tool that executes the strategy perfectly, not the one that's the shiniest and that everybody is talking about.
Yes. I love that. Strategy first. If you summarize this entire talk, strategy first, and you need marketing across the entire journey, or you don't have a journey.
Actually, strategy second, insights first, conversations first, listening first, and then we can build a strategy that matters. Otherwise, we're in danger of being in our own echo chamber.
Yes. Another good clarification. Back to the 60 to 70% of your time should be being curious and building that plan by listening. So listen first, strategy second, which this might answer the last question. What is one thing that you would tell yourself 20, 23 years ago, just starting out in marketing, fully trained, but just starting out in your career, practicing? What would you tell yourself now that you know everything you know today?
That is such a great question. I think it would be never let go of being curious, because curiosity. See, the thing is that, as I said earlier, strategy doesn't change. Strategic frameworks don't change, but marketing is still a craft. And we have to learn and experiment and challenge ourselves and the way that things are done. And customers' needs are moving on. So we've got to stay curious and not think we've just fixed the whole thing. And so we've got to stay the same, connected, but move with the times. So it is quite a challenge that we've got in marketing. And I think that what has stood the test of time for me is that I've always remained curious, and I've always invested in myself in marketing as to understand what the trends are. So whether I can leave them and where to slot them in that's relevant for success. So that's what I would say. And what's really interesting, more than actually what I would tell my younger self, is that there's a lot of CMOs I know who are telling younger generations, don't do it, because they're just so defeated. And I don't know where I read this. I'll try and dig it out and you can put it in the show notes, that year 9 children, when asked what their career was, like the lowest number ever, are now saying marketing. I know, I do talk to schools trying to say to kids, this is what marketing is. It's not all of the stuff that you see. Like it's the difference of the H&M clothes and the Shein clothes. It's the same clothes, it's just under a different brand. And oh my God, what is this? So yeah, I would say keep passing back to those behind you all the stuff you know, so we do not lose this discipline, that it gets carved up and eaten for Christmas.
Gosh, it's like a save marketing campaign, save the CMO.
I'm going to get a t-shirt and say to CMO, oh my God, that's exactly what I'm going to do.
Oh, this is sad, but we'll do it. We'll do it together. Everybody band together, and everybody for sure connect with, follow Emma on LinkedIn.
Oh, bless you.
Her link in show notes. Let's do this together. Thank you so much, Emma, for joining me today and spreading your wisdom. You definitely have my gears turning. I know that everybody else listening the same, for scared, right? And oh shit, what do we do? But also, okay, we got this. Both at the same time. We'll see which panned out.
Yeah, and also if you do follow me on LinkedIn, I'm starting to put together things to help people, because I do feel like I'm in a bit of a crusade now to save marketing. I'm going to get a t-shirt when I get off there. I'm going to be like, where's can I get a t-shirt? Yeah, because actually it is easy. We just make it really difficult ourselves by trying to do all of the stuff.
Yes.
We don't need to make it that difficult. And if we just go back to basics, that's how we'll save ourselves. And if not, then I'm just going to hang up my marketing tails and become a dog walker.
Backup plan. I'll have one just in case. Thank you so much for chatting with me today, Emma. It's been wonderful. Everyone, connect with us. Let us know if you liked the episode, if you have any questions, what you want to hear about next. And please rate the show, leave us a review. It helps us get in front of more amazing people in marketing. So thank you all. Have a great day.